Let me just start out by saying that thank you for saying that me being critical is actually a blessing. I don't think my wife quite buys that, but I've always thought it probably is. Hold on just a minute here as we try. So that's it for tonight. Hold on. Come on now. There we go. So I just need to make it active. So anybody know who this guy is? His name's Bart Ehrman. And he is officially the dude that killed Christianity. He's one of the insiders, one of us at one point, who's actually rejected Christianity as of recent. He's a textual scholar. He's holds a chair position at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And he basically killed Christianity when he released his book called Misquoting Jesus, where he released to the public this little secret that we've been keeping from everybody, and that's that the Bible is riddled with errors. In fact, we have between 200,000 and 300,000 textual variants or errors in the New Testament. Considering there's only 138,020 words in the New Testament, Dr. Ehrman is correct in saying that we have more errors than we have words in our manuscript. I'm also getting over a cold, so I have my sexy radio voice on tonight. So that's it, right? Case closed. Everything we know about Christianity is based on a book that is riddled with errors. Or there's a possibility we might be able to use our minds a little bit and determine exactly what is meant by this. See, the fact of the matter is, the reason why we have so many errors is because we have so many freaking copies. I don't know if I can say freaking in church, actually. Is that all right? You can take it out. Okay. I should probably ask my wife. You can edit that out. We have 5,686 Greek New Testaments. We have 8,000 Latin Vulgates. We have 9,000 Coptic, Syriac texts. We got a lot of texts. We have 24,000 total texts. That doesn't include the fact that we have 36,000 quotes from the early church fathers. The early church actually quotes all but 11 passages of the New Testament. So we have a lot of data to work with. The fact of the matter is that the way we calculate textual variance, which is another word for an error, that's the technical term for an error, is by essentially counting each mistake as an error. So for instance, if we have a spelling error in the New Testament, that counts as one error. But if we have that same spelling error in 500 New Testaments, now we have 500 errors, and so on and so forth. So if we missed a word, we missed a line, word order change, things like that all count as errors. So really, when you look at the evidence, it's not as significant as we might think. These are some of the different types, some of the different types of errors that we see in the New Testament. Overwhelmingly, spelling is the biggest issue. Now, it's important to understand how the New Testament was actually transmitted. These were not scribes, at least not in the beginning. These were people. Let's say I'm a traveler and I'm moving from one region, happen to be traveling into Ephesus. I go to a home church there, and they have a letter from Paul. My church doesn't have that. So I ask the home church, hey, can I make a copy? They say yes, hopefully. So I sit down and I make a copy of Ephesians for my home church. The problem is that Christianity was illegal at the time. So I'm looking for any scrap of paper that I can find. Usually it was an old document that I'm going to write over. I sit down in low light and I copy as quickly as possible. Now, I'm not a scribe. I'm not trained in this. I'm copying as best I can. I take that letter back to my home church. I give it to them. What do? They make a copy. So we get a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. Every time, there's an error. Probably. I would bet if we sat down with just one page of the Bible and had every single person here copy it, there's going to be an error in every single one of those copies. Wouldn't change the outcome, and the odds of us making the same error are very, very slim. So we can probably figure out what it was intended for. Word order, skipping words. We do this all the time, right? Homophones. You know what a homophone is? It's a word that sounds the same. To and to and to. There, and there. Some of these home churches would actually make copies in advance, so they'd get the letter from the Ephesians, and they would have one dude stand up there with the letter and read it off. And you'd have 10 other guys that are copying it down as quickly as they can. Well, the Greek language has homophones too. Homophones. I get this wrong. So, homophones too. So the scribe would write the wrong word down. These are the things that are the most argued over. Because some of these make some differences. None make theological differences, and we'll see that in a minute. But some do make some differences. Like, for instance, was Jesus anxious when he went to the cross, or was he not anxious when he went to the cross? That's a homophonic textual variant. So these things exist. So these are the things that Bart Ehrman is talking about. But they don't change the theology at all. We have accidental line subtraction. We see this all the time. We do this. Let's say we have a line of text that ends with the word and. And the line right below it also ends with the word and. So we have two lines in a row, both ending in and. So we're copying down. We see and. Okay, we're going to go to the next line, get our paper ready. We look back, and we look at the wrong and. We look at the and from the sentence below. So we skip that line, and we keep going. So we miss or subtract lines from the text when that happens. Commentary addition. This is simple. Remember, the New Testament was transmitted in writing. They weren't typing it up, no photocopiers. So this is a home church document. I'm using it just like we're doing today. And I've written in the margin a commentary, something to add to the text. Now I've given it to this guy who's going to make a copy of it, and he sees written in the margin something that he has no idea if it was part of the original text or not. So he puts it right into the text. That goes on to the home church. And then we have malice. There's some of that. But it's way down on the list. In fact, I'll show you a copy of malice in the New Testament. So these are the different ways that we make mistakes. Now, in reality, when you remove the things that mean nothing, we have 99% agreement. There are 1,500 to 2,000 errors in the New Testament that mean anything at all, and not a single one of them touches theology. So 200 to 300,000, that's true, but when you put it in perspective, it's really not that big of a problem. In fact, let's look at the other way in which we can determine what the New Testament would say. And that's that there are different families or groups of New Testament documents. And that's when what are called textual critics are looking at these documents. They're seeing things that they have in common. And they're putting them into families. And usually they're by region, like the Alexandrian text, the Byzantine text, and type D, which is basically everything else. And really they're determined based on where they're found. Okay? Now, hands down, these texts down here are the oldest. We have the most of these. Now notice that I put some commentary there. The NASB, the NIV, the ESV, the King James or New King James Version of the Bible. That's the majority of the texts are used to build those particular English translations of the New Testament. Okay? So these are some of the rules that, the reason why this is important is it relates to the map, coming up slowly. Map, hello. Mr. Map. I got nothing. So I'll just do balloon animals here for a minute. So the three, I can talk about it. It's pretty simple. The three different ways in which a textual critic will use to determine the reliability of a particular text. I guess I shouldn't touch your mouse, should I, while I do that? There we go. So, really they use these three things. And you can see I say rules for textual critics live by, kind of. It's not quite that simple. The first is the majority reading. And now if we look back at the map, this is